Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So I've had a few comments on the past videos I put up with people saying, can I put up a rig making video? So here we are, I'm giving this a go today. We're going to make a 3-hook loop rig. So it's going to have 18-inch snoods. They're all going to be 18 inches. I'm going to talk you through the parts we need and how we're going to make it. And I'm going to start off by focusing on what we need for the rig body. So I've got some parts laid out in front of me here. I'm just going to angle my camera down so you can see the parts, but you won't be able to see my head. Hopefully you can live with that. It's probably a better view, to be honest. Anyway, let's get you angled down a little bit. All right, hopefully, I'll just turn that a little bit to the side. You can see all the parts. I need to come across a little bit more. Right, we have, to start off with, that is a size 2 stainless steel swivel from Plaice Pro. Then we have a bead. In fact, there's going to be 7 beads. That's a pretty tiny bead, but I'm using clear beads on my rig body. I like to keep my rig stealthy. I've got 2 of these size 6 stainless steel swivels, also from Plaice Pro. We have an SRT spring, but I'm only going to need to use half of that. I've got a cascade swivel, another one of the size 6 swivels there, and at the bottom for this particular rig I'm going to be using a splashdown. You could use an imp or another clip of your choice. For the rig body line I have 60-pound xenon, and I'm going to be using rig gum to hold all my swivels in place on the rig body. So let's take a look at how we're going to make the rig. There we go. So that's half the spring. So I'm going to save that other half for another rig, pop that out of the way. So now we've got all the pieces we need. We're going to get our line. So I'm going to take my size 2 swivel there, thread that on to the 60-pound xenon rig body, and I'm going to tie it 3-turn uni knot. So 1, 2, 3. We're just going to pull that gently. I'm going to moisten this. Gently pull it down to the swivel. And then before I pull it tight, I'm going to take my knot puller, pop that in the swivel, moisten it again. And I'll give it a really good tug. There we are. So that's nicely tied. Trim the little tag end back a bit. So there we go. The knot with the little tag end. And now what I'm going to do is measure out the xenon line. I've got a ruler here. Now we said we were going to have 18-inch snoods, and it's a 3-hook rig. So for the top snood, I'm actually going to measure 19 inches of rig body, because remember the hook is going to add a bit of length. For the middle snood, I'm going to measure out another 19 inches. Now the bottom snood, because it's a loop rig, we're going to aim for needing about 6 inches of rig body for the bottom snood. That'll become clear when we get onto the snood making bit. I need to allow about 4 inches for the knot, and I like to allow myself 2 inches of what I call wiggle room on my rig body. So 6 plus 4 plus 2, that means I want to measure out 12 inches here. And where did I put my clips there? So I'm going to clip that off 12 inches long. So we've measured 19 plus 19 plus 12. And we have our rig body. Now the first thing to do is slide on a bead. This is where I wish I had younger eyes. I'm using oval beads from Arno hooks. So we've got a bead on there, size 6 stainless swivel, another bead, oops, throwing beads away. And then we take the spring. This is going to provide tension when it all gets clipped up. So I'm just going to thread that spring on. Another bead. So if I slide all these up, this is where the top snood's going to go. So you can see there we have a bead, swivel, bead, spring, bead. Now we're moving it down to what we need on here for the middle hook. So we put on a bead. And we take our cascade swivel, making sure the clip is going to be oriented away from the swivel we tied on at the top. So we want it that way around. Pop the line through, pop another bead on. And there we have our setup for the middle snood. And then lastly, I'm going to put on another bead and the second size 6 swivel. And then the third bead. There we go. And then the bottom at the business end, we tie on the splashdown. Again, I'm going to use the 3-turn uni knot. Pull it gently, moisten it, slide it gently down the line, knot puller, and moisten that again. Now we pull that tight. So you can see there, I've got just under an inch of tag end to trim off. I like to leave about 5mm. So there we go, that's everything slid onto the rig body. So if I slide all the components up to the top, there you can see all the pieces we've slid on. And our next job is to tie some stop knots. So for the stop knots, I'm going to start at the bottom of the rig. So I've got the splashdown here, and I've made sure everything I've slid on is above where I'm holding the line in my fingers. And we're going to get our rig gum from Tronics Pro, and we're going to tie a 4-turn stop knot. So 4-turn stop knot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, try not to let go of the end this time. There we go, pull that. And then once I've got it cinched down neatly, I'll give that a very steady but firm pull. Being careful not to snap the rig gum there. So I'm going to snip that. Trim the ends. And then I'm going to position that stop knot so it's about an inch above the cascade. That's just my personal preference. Some people might sight that right at the bottom of the rig. Now we slide down to that stop knot, a bead, a swivel. I need a second bead there. So we're now going to tie a stop knot above. Again, another 4-turn stop knot with the rig gum. Cinch that down and then a steady pull. I tie quite a lot of these, so I can almost do it with my eyes shut now. Trim the ends. And slide that stop knot down, and we want to give that swivel just a little bit of space there to move so that it can spin nicely if it needs to. Now we're going to move up to roughly slightly above the middle of the rig body, and we're going to tie another stop knot. So again, 4 turns with the rig gum. Pull that gently. Once it's cinched, we can give it a nice slow pull to get it nice and tight. And that's going to grip nicely. Sometimes when you're fishing, these do slide, but you can just pop them back in position. Like if you catch a nice big fish, sometimes the weight of the fish can move the stop knot. I'm not going to worry about exactly where that's got to go. If we were using crimps, we'd have to make sure we crimped it all up after the snoods have been put on, but we're using rig gum, so we've got a bit of flexibility. So now what I've done is slid down a bead, that cascade swivel, and another bead. And we're going to tie the stop knot above that. 2, 3, 4. Cinch it neatly. Pull it nice and tight. And trim. So again, we want to give that swivel a bit of room to breathe, but we haven't positioned this exactly right, so I'm not too worried about how that is going to sit. And then we move up to the top of the rig where we've got our bead, swivel, bead, spring, bead. And beneath that lot, I'm going to tie another stop knot. And then the last stop knot for the rig body, we want above the very first bead we slid on. So between that first bead and the size 2 swivel. So there we go. So I get those ends trimmed, and then we've finished the rig body. Okay, so that's the top bit. Again, a little bit of space there so that can move. So now let's take a look at what we need for the snoods. Okay, so parts we're going to need for the hook snoods. I have some size 2 saltwater super match from Varivas. That's just my hook of choice today. For the snood, I've got 20 pound Axia, and that's 0.41. That's fluorocarbon. We have some little rubber stops from Tronics Pro because it's a clip down rig, we need bait stops. We've got, I don't know if you can be able to see these, but there's 3 sequins there. And for the bottom snood, we're going to need a cascade swivel, and I like to use a little mini clip here because if you've seen some of my other videos, you know that when I unhook through the gills, I don't like passing the cascade swivel through, so I'm going to pop that mini clip onto the bottom of the cascade, and that's going to form part of our bottom snood. And I also like to use a little bit of tube to help kick the bottom snood away from the grip lead. So I have here, so this is 1.5mm bore silicone. I think I just got this off eBay or somewhere. And we're going to measure out 2.5 inches of that. Hopefully I can cut that with my rather dodgy wire cutters. There we go. Put that out of the way. So there we have a 2.5 inch piece of rubber tube. Now we're going to get our rig body, and the first thing I'm going to do is tie on the fluorocarbon for the hook snoods. I always put the hooks on right at the end, so I've got less chance of sticking one in my finger, which I have been known to do. So we're going to tie on the 20 pound Axia fluorocarbon to the swivel at the top there, and I'm going to use a 5-turn uni knot for this. Gently pull that, very gently slide that. Fluorocarbon does tend to be a bit wiry, and the more gentle you can pull the knot, more gently you can pull that, the less sort of coiling you're going to get from it. So there we go, let's tie that on the 5-turn uni knot. Again, leave a little tag end. Now I want 18-inch snoods, and I know when I tie on a hook I need an extra 1.5 inches for the knot. So I'm going to measure out 19.5 inches there. And then we're going to do exactly the same on the middle snood. So we're going to take the cascade swivel, get the fluorocarbon, oops, at the end, and we're going to tie this on the 5-turn uni knot. Two, three, 4, 5. Gently pull, moisten. Gently slide that down. Cinch that down a bit and then give it a good tug. There we go, nicely tight. So again, we measure out 19.5 inches on the ruler. Drop that. And that's the snoods tied on for the top 2 hooks. Now the bottom one's a bit more complicated because it's a loop rig. So again, the first thing I'm going to do though is tie on my fluorocarbon to that swivel at the bottom. So that's our bottom swivel there. Thread that line through, 5-turn uni knot. Gently, gently. Well, my GoPro decided to turn itself off because it got too hot. So I was in the middle of tying the snood on to the swivel at the bottom of the rig there for the bottom snood. So this is for the loop rig part. And I said I wanted about 6 inches of line between the hook and the cascade swivel, which is going to run along the rig body. That means I need, to get an 18-inch snood, I need a 12-inch piece and a 6-inch piece, roughly speaking. So to get my 12-inch piece, I'm going to measure 13.5 inches, allowing 1.5 inches for the knot, and we're going to cut that. And this is now where we're going to use this piece of tube that I cut. So we slide a piece of tube onto the line. So this is the 1.5mm internal bore silicone, and we're just going to gently push that over the knot and onto the swivel. There we go. So what that does is it just acts as a little bit like a boom, helping to hold the line away from the lead that's going to be on the bottom there. It just helps reduce the number of tangles I get. It doesn't eliminate them, but it does help the snood stop getting tied around, twisted up around the grip lead. So the next up, we're going to tie on the cascade swivel to the end of this 13.5-inch piece of line. Again, 5-turn uni knot. There we go. Gently slide that down to the swivel. Look moist. Give that a good pull. Trim the end, and we measure that. That is coming in at exactly 12 inches, which is what I wanted. Now we're going to get our fluorocarbon and tie this time onto the end of this mini clip that I have here. Again, another 5-turn uni knot. I'm going to pull that nice and tight, exactly the same as the others. Now we want this snood to be 18 inches long, so just like the other two, I'm going to cut this to be 19.5 inches. There we go, from the top that's from the swivel at the top of the rig body. So I've got quite a short piece of line there from the mini clip down to where the hook's going to tie on. So now we've tied all our snoods on, the last thing we have to do is put the bait stops on and add the hooks. I'm going to start off with this bottom one. This is what I've got in my hand, and I have these little rubber stops here from Tronics Pro. I think these were the medium-sized ones, and we're going to slide that rubber stop just onto the very end of the snood. This is going to create a little kink in the line, so I'm making sure it's at the end of this piece of line. We're just going to gently pull that onto the snood. There we go. So it's still attached to the wire. This wire, I just need to open that up because I'm going to have to put the line through it again in a minute. It's a little bit fiddly. Just need to make a hole big enough for the line to go through. There we go. Now I can finish pulling that stop on, and I'm going to slide that all the way up to the mini clip so it's out of my way. There we go. Then we get a sequin and we slide that on. So that is now our bait stop there. And then we need our hook. So that's our size 2 super match. And this is a bit fiddly, this one, so I haven't got very much line here. This is about as short as I can handle tying on a hook, so we're going to go do our little uni knot, and I'm going to need to use my teeth for this. This is not a lot of line. Oops, that's 3 turns. I can only do 4 this time. I'd prefer 5 for the extra security, but 4 is all I can manage. So again, we slide that down nice and gently, and then pull it tight. So we were aiming at this snood being 18 inches long, sorry. Let's see what we've got. That is bang on 18 inches. Now I can slide that bait stop down so it's in a better position for when we start fishing. So that's the bottom snood done, so I'm going to get that out of the way. And now we're going to go up to the middle snood, and we're going to repeat this process with the little rubber stop, sequin, and hook. So get that quite near the end. Oh, there's two there pushed up. Put that one back down. So it's less than an inch of line poking through there. Gently slide it on, and then before we pull it all the way over, we're going to reopen that metal loop. There we go. Slide the bait stop up out of the way. Sequin on. And then a hook. Gently, gently. Let's check the length of that one. That might come out just a little bit long. No, that's exactly bang on. Perfect. And then the top hook is what is left to be done. So rubber loop. So rubber stop through the metal loop. Okay. Slide that out of the way. Pop the sequin on. And tie on our hook. Gently, gently, gently. There we go. Up on that a little bit more. That's it. Nicely cinched down. Again, we can check the length of that one. Tiny bit short there, but that's fine. It's only a ½ inch out. Right, so that's the hooks tied on. So the next step is to get everything in position. I'll see you in a second. We've done all the tying, and what we're going to do now is get things in roughly the right position for when we're fishing on the beach. So the first step is to pop the hook securely in the splashdown. And now what we're going to do is take the cascade swivel that's on the snood, and I'm going to clip the middle hook into that cascade swivel. And then what we can do is, you can see there, hopefully, that the middle cascade swivel is too far up the rig body. So I'm going to slide that down just by pulling that until the line tightens up. I can pop that down, slide my top bait stop down, just leaving that middle swivel with a little bit of wiggle room. And then I'm going to hold that, the line from hold the line from the middle snood and the rig body in place. And then we're going to get our top hook, pop that into the cascade swivel that's on the middle of the rig. And you can see there actually the positioning of my top snood is actually perfect already. That swivel's held in the right place. Just a tiny bit of tension there in that spring, which is exactly what I wanted. So now all we need to do is wind that up, put it away, store it, and it's ready to use. There we go, guys.